welcome everybody. I'm almost not in the opportunity to introduce you, but I would like to ask still to just shortly say who you are, but that's quite clear, I guess. What your role is in your city, and maybe what brings you to Amsterdam.
Okay, so I'm Antoinette Guhl. I'm Deputy Mayor of Paris, and I'm in charge of circular economy, of innovation, social innovation, and social business.
Okay, thank you. Merci. And what brings you to Amsterdam? What brings you to
sorry.
Amsterdam?
Oh.
Why are you here?
Oh, I'm here at first to meet you. You know that because you just sent me the invitation last week, and I'm here because tomorrow we meet all cities in Amsterdam to speak about sharing economy and the issue for big cities, big and small cities, in fact, because it changes our way to make the policies of these big cities.
Merci. And Tracey, welcome.
Thank you. This feels very loud. We're here from Toronto, glad to be here. I'm actually not a technology person. I'm actually the person where innovation goes to die. I know, it's terrible. I'm responsible for regulating by law enforcement and all that fun stuff, yeah. So it's been an interesting adventure over the last year and a half for us in Toronto, particularly with one particular company that shall remain nameless. I think through that I've become from technology crusher to technology champion for the city, and seeing what's out there that we can bring in to make Toronto a more livable, fun city, more than it is already.
And thank you. And why are you in Amsterdam?
Well, as Antoinette said, we heard we got to meet you, Harmen, so wonderful. To do exactly this, is to learn more, see what else is going on. There's more in the sharing economy than Uber and Uber and Airbnb. There's a lot of fantastic things happening in the technology space, so this opportunity to learn, bring things back home, and talk to colleagues in other cities.
Okay. Thank you, Tracey. Good to have you.
Thank you.
And Ger, what brings you to Amsterdam?
I'm not even a CTO, it's just to meet you, Harmen. It's just a
you.
window dressing. No.
If the crowd is leaving in 5 minutes, I can imagine. It's like, yeah, just to meet you, Harmen.
You can meet Harmen as well later on. You can shake hands with him if you want to.
But okay, so maybe just a little bit about your role, because not everybody probably knows.
I'm responsible for innovation within the city of Amsterdam and the impact of technology on how economy and society and cities are changing. And we want to be as proactive as possible with these changes, and not only see what happened to us, but we want to, look ahead, look forward, and make sure we do the right stuff.
There they go already.
Sorry.
It was fun meeting you.
Was it something we said?
I think so.
Something he said, I think.
It was Harmen's
Oh
fault.
yeah, okay. At this point, we go and sound like these two Muppets, up at the balcony. Okay, let's move on to a question I have, because probably most of you guys know that Amsterdam is a sharing city. At least you guys know. Hopefully, part of the crowd also knows that. Maybe you all would like to give your view on what your city's vision is of the sharing or collaborative economy. And maybe it's nice to start with you, Ger, because you're hosting city today also. So maybe just shortly or briefly explain what the vision of Amsterdam is to the sharing economy.
Well, in a broad sense, I mean, we're in many ways very positive about, actually, it's not only sharing, it's a new economy and all these platforms coming into a city. I mean, and in the end, things didn't change that much in terms of its supply and demand, and things were brought together. And what I like about sharing economy, in principle, when you make sure your regulations are in place, but more about that later because she knows quite a bit about that stuff, is that you can create a totally new market where you can improve customer experience, where you can develop a whole bunch of new products and services. So in general, we're very positive about the opportunities of the sharing economy. But with every economic transition, I mean, you need to learn, you need to skip rules, but probably you need some new rules as well, because it's a new game going on. So I think sharing economy, collaborative economy, platform economy, if you wish, is, not much to discuss if it's going to be big or here, etc. But for us, the challenge is how to make sure we profit as much as possible from it as a city, quality of life, etc., and make sure we don't have too much negative aspects, like every transition.
Clear. Tracy, would you also like to reflect on that? I mean, you
Sure.
just slightly mentioned Airbnb and Uber, and
Yeah.
it's always about those two guys. Partly imaginable, but there's much more. So maybe your brief reflection on the sharing economy in your city. What is going on there?
Well, I think we're very much the same. It's been reactive versus proactive, and some people have that feeling it's just been thrust on us and don't really understand it. And I think without understanding comes a bit of fear and trepidation. And of course, being government, there's always that concern about risk, and we get a little bit tied up in knots over over what it's bringing. And I think we've focused so much till now on the challenge that it presented. And my hope is, coming back from this, is really framing out more of the opportunity. Because I think there is a ton of opportunity to be had. And you're walking through this conference and seeing what's happening out in that space and the way people want to interact with each other and in exchange of goods and services. And it's incredible. So, this, for us, it's starting the dialogue. It's moving the conversation from what do we do about this to how do we embrace it and how do we leverage it to benefit the city and the inhabitants of the city and the people that visit. So, it's a long-term vision, and certainly we've got a bit of a road to get there, but I think we will get there.
Okay.
It's never been so easy to be an entrepreneur. I mean, it's
Incredible.
like you can start to rent out your house for 2 hours a week, be a taxi driver 2 hours a week, do whatever you want. I mean, and this is something we've been working on for decades, how to stimulate entrepreneurship and make it easier to be an entrepreneur. And everybody's an entrepreneur, wait for what's happening.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see.
Well, I think some of that entrepreneurship mindset and innovation mindset needs to infiltrate government. We just seem to not have gotten there yet. I mean, certain people have, certain sectors have, certainly our CIO, talking about smart city, has, but globally as a city, I think we're needing to see that this is just a change, and it's not how do you stop it, it's how do you embrace it, and how do you leverage it, and how do you prepare for it.
I spent 2 hours at the law department this morning in our office, so I need to
Don't
smile a
talk
bit
to
about
lawyers.
this.
First, we kill all the lawyers. No lawyers.
Right. So this is going to be a one-on-one while we're chatting about what Paris is doing with the sharing or collaborative economy, if you still want to call it that. Because I sometimes hear that France is a bit already passing by the sharing or collaborative economy term, but maybe that's for later. What is your position there and your vision?
Our position is quite clear. It's that now cities and Paris have to face a lot of issues, like all the cities in the world. Environmental issue, social issues, and economical issue. And sharing economy has to deal with these three parts of our policy. So we want sharing economy, but we want sharing economy to be, sorry, my English is not as good as yours, so I need more time, but to be useful for all the inhabitants. We don't want to make an economy which will be an extracting economy. We want to be an including economy. So we want regulation of this sharing economy to make the best of for all the inhabitants of Paris. So that's why the regulation in France, in Paris, of Airbnb has been a great challenge for us. Mm-hmm. We did that for Uber as well. So we see a very huge opportunity in sharing economy because it's the new way of economy, and we know that because we are really involved in innovation. We did a lot during these 10 years to make Paris be the place of innovation, and sharing economy is one part of this new innovation. But it should be also a social innovation, a new way of making consumption, but for the major part of inhabitants.
Really clear. And may I ask you what an example is of the sharing economy besides Airbnb and Uber that you really like yourself, or that you think has a really big future in your city?
Yes, we can, for example, take a platform of what is actually waste, and to share, I will take some notes because my English is not that good and my vocabulary is written.
It's pretty good, actually.
It's
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Okay, you understand me.
Don't worry about it.
So we would like to create some. Thank you. Thank you for all the French here who speak very well English.
No, seriously, it's very good. It's very good. It's very good.
So yes, I think that in the topic of waste, for example, we do nothing with our waste. A lot of our waste are incinerated. And in Paris, we would like to make platform to share the waste. And for example, the building waste, which is an issue important for cities, that could be a new way of making economy of waste by sharing economy between entrepreneurs.
Okay, and I saw that I did a bit of preparing there, that you also were involved before in a platform of reusing toys.
Yes, that's right.
Rejouer?
Oui.
Yeah?
Rejouer. Yeah, that was not really digital economy, but that was sharing economy, because it was a non-profit organization which to reduce waste, collect all the
all the toys and
all the toys and
the dolls,
just
etc.
put them, put them new to sale. But that's
so you were a bit
part.
disruptive, maybe, to bigger corporations like Mattel, making the Barbie doll, for example, because you reused and refurbished the dolls and got them back on the market.
Yeah, that's right.
Interesting.
We did that.
And I think in Toronto you have the tool library, right?
We do,
I mean,
yeah.
Is there something you really like to see there as a different example of the sharing economy in your city, or is there another great example which you would like to share?
I think the Toronto Tool Library is great. It is actually, it's not digital, though people are connecting, and it's growing very well. But it is people who have extra tools. You know, how often do you need a hammer? How often do you need a saw? That contribute to the central repository. An annual membership is $50, and you can go in and use whatever tools you need for the time you need them. They're starting to partner with our library system, which really is the first fundamental sharing economy, I guess you could coin it as that. So the tool library, I think, is a fantastic example, and it also addresses the issue of not excessive consumerism, I guess, and the environmental benefits of people sharing tools that are seldom used, and real nice team of people that put that together. So something that's not of the other two.
And I think with regards to the challenges, I mean, I think it's a mindset in particular, meaning sharing platforms are an infrastructure, basically, and like roads. I mean, when we started to build roads and people started to drive cars, at a certain point in time we discovered that some people couldn't actually drive, and then we started to give our driver's licenses, etc. What you see right now, and Airbnb is the example, basically. I mean, the platform doesn't do anything wrong, basically. It's the people renting out illegal houses or hotels on top of it who actually make the mistake. And we're not in the mindset yet that we see the platform as an infrastructure, basically without an opinion, but people make misuse of an infrastructure that's already there. So we need to...
So just to tap on that shortly, the platform is not making a mistake. The people who act on the platform are making possibly a mistake or something, behavior that is not legal.
No, when I would steal your shoes, with a small chance, but I would. But when I steal your shoes, basically, and I put them on eBay, I mean, you wouldn't get angry at eBay, do you? I mean, it's me making misuse of the eBay platform, I would say. So we need to make sure people know how to handle in this new system, because since the digitalization makes it a bit, unpersonalized, I would say. So it's easy to blame the platform. It's easy to blame the cloud. The cloud. I mean, you can blame the cloud as easy as that, because it's so blaming a person is something different, basically. So we blame a platform because it's so easy, while actually the person making misuse of a platform, I mean, is the person to blame, I would say. So we need to make this step in our thinking about using this infrastructure. I mean, you don't blame the government when people make an accident with their cars, do you? I mean, unless they do something wrong with the traffic lights.
Sometimes
probably.
people blame the government for things.
Yeah, I mean, people blame the government all the time, so that's an issue and a different issue, I would say. But
all the time.
Just as easy. I mean, the government is maybe the second industrial revolution cloud. Just blame the government. But in the end, it's not the fault of the government as well. So I would say we need to find ways and to educate people, to have them realize what their responsibility is, and also make sure our rules and regulations are that clear that we can make sure people understand what's happening, what's the responsibility, etc. Because when you do something that's illegal, you just do something that's illegal, and you should get...
Yeah. Okay, I think you want to reflect on something. Is that right?
Sorry, yes. I would like to add something for cities, is is the way that sharing economy can do democracy as well. And what I want to say that if we decided in Paris to make a participative budget with participative projects, and that is one application of sharing economy, which is in fact sharing power and sharing political power. So it's also a way of empowerment, and we have got now in France and everybody abroad a lot of platforms which help politics to take the good decision by sharing the decision. We have a participative budget of 500 million. 500 million euro given directly to decision to Parisian in Paris, which is a huge part of our investment project. And it's by platform and by sharing the decision. It's not really sharing economy, but it's sharing decision, and it can be sharing economy now.
Also, it means you need to share data and et cetera,
Yes.
so people can, et cetera. Yeah, it's
Yes.
also true.
Cool. So there's maybe partly coming in an influx of more means in the city for the sharing economy, if I may say so. So if you have like this huge amount of money, which people can partly spend on sharing platforms, you're in one way or the other also stimulating the sharing economy there, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's say
okay.
you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just asking or guessing, but okay. I was thinking of another thing that is maybe, but it's maybe then I want to bridge to you guys, but the mobility here in the city, and I'm not sure how that is, for example, for your cities, but I can imagine it's the same. I mean, reaching this position or this phase that we get like total gridlock, that the city is completely stuck. So yeah, maybe, okay, then I will start with you. Like in Toronto, how could that maybe be solved with sharing economy principles or other tech innovations than sharing?
Yeah, so certainly we have a traffic issue. We have a pretty decent transit system, but certainly we haven't been making the investments, I think, over the years that maybe we should have or could have, and we've outstripped the road space that we have. So being that our interaction with sharing economy, or at least shared use mobility on the ride share, we've had car share for a while, we've got bike share happening now. So I think there's still, and Ger mentioned, sorry.
Very good.
I try, it's not bad, it's my Dutch, okay. That there's a bit of a culture shift too. It's happening more in our downtown core where it's a lot more density, and people are using the bike share quite a bit, and maybe some car share quite often. We're seeing buildings now being constructed with no parking. You know, residential condominium towers without parking, because there's this recognition that the day of the car ownership by individuals for themselves may be waning, but I think we're still a little ways away. I think that's where if we can get our minds around what the opportunities are that are presented, I think in particular the mobility issue and how we can use these various options as they come online, I think will be one of the biggest benefits for a city like Toronto with a really congested core.
Okay. And do you want to add something to that for Paris?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes, we've got also sharing economy in mobility in Paris with Vélib, Autolib, which are bicycle sharing and car sharing. What I want to say that it changes really the way of life in Paris during the 10 last year by this new way of mobility. Now in Paris, nobody has his own bike because it's so easy to have one in the street that nobody wants to take it and to put it in his flat, the third stage. So it really changed the way of being in Paris. Bicycle here is really used in Paris. It wasn't used as well before having Vélib. So it's really shared the mobility in Paris. And now we are working on data system to make free the car park information in order to know where we can park a car, but that's some problem with private car park, and we don't have all the information now, but we're going
We have
give
an app
that
for
to
that.
Like
You have an app for
We
that?
have an app for that, yeah.
Okay, so tonight at dinner, you two
Yes,
can...
we have to.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Great. Let's go from your latest answer to maybe a little bridge to 2030. So I don't know, maybe not all of you saw the opening of today's event, but you had a girl of
Josephine.
11 years old. And, you know, imagine that she was 11, so she will be 25. And this is her future, her new city. What is a thing in your city, an aspect, and maybe even broader than sharing economy, which is really different in your city in 15 years from now? Do you have, and just broaden your mind, think freely, open. What is something you really see or want to see in your city in 15 years? Is this something you think of right now? Or maybe the crowd, and maybe you want to, you know, just interrupt with a question, that's also possible. But do you see something? What's your vision? I mean, you have a young child also.
In 30 years, I would have your hair probably. That's the thing that worries me a bit, actually.
Okay, thanks, Ger. Okay, but I think this is not really contributing to the city, so...
I would say in 15, 20 years, I mean, I think every industry there is transforming at the moment to platform economy, basically. And for cities like Amsterdam, we also will have the big shift from to an asset-driven economy. So now it's money-driven, I think will be asset-driven, basically. We need to leverage our assets to earn more money. And this is actually what sharing economy is doing. I mean, we can, as a city like Amsterdam, I mean, you drive around later on, there are lots of assets we could leverage, basically, to start to earn money. So we need to earn more money having our assets in place, basically. I mean, it would be logical to, putting your car somewhere for 98% of the time is ridiculous in every economic model you could think of. And I think every asset we have will be more effectively used, basically. And this means a total shift in how our earning models will be there. It's not only money-driven, it's also how the value you create with your, lending out your car or your house, etc. I think this will be a big shift within the next years. Also, new waves of technology that probably will disrupt financial sector and payment sector as well. And so we go to value instead of money-driven economy, which is not based on, hopefully, on debts anymore, because nowadays you need to create debt to create money, and it's a ridiculous system. There's more debt in the world than money. I mean, explain this to somebody. I mean, this is a ridiculous system. Will not be there anymore. So we need to change that, and money needs to be relating to assets. And actually, this is what you try to do with sharing economy, because the assets and the revenue models are way more linked to each other. So in a more broader way, this is going to happen, and I think everything you could imagine will be leveraged way more, not always 100%, but will be more than 2%.
Okay, and is this maybe the scenario for 2030, you think?
Yep.
Yeah, okay, cool. How long you will stay in CTO office?
For another year, and then I'll probably start my own sharing platform, because it's Monday.
Okay, so you're going to make yourself obsolete.
Yep, absolutely.
Cool. I think, yeah, okay, cool. Very welcome.
A microphone.
Yeah, you. Yeah, I think so. Because,
I'll do without a mic. So my question is about in 30, 20 years, that I have 2 kids, and I can live in a city from when I'm young to old. But having kids, I find out that I want them to go on playgrounds and playing against teams in other cities. And this is where a problem arises, because if I don't have a car, I can't get a whole team of kids towards another city. And this is something I see with a lot of families, that's a reason to go out of the city. But how would we solve this? So yes, we can have autonomous cars.
Hyperloop.
Hyperloop.
I mean, I think a lot of children will fit in Hyperloop. I think they'll think it's kind of cool, and you can also Hyperloop them from Amsterdam to Paris in half an hour. So
No, it is an interesting question, and I think you want to.
The 20 kilometers for the 10
yeah.
kilometers, my kids on a bike alone in Amsterdam.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. So Ger, you want to reflect on this
No,
question? Thank
absolutely
you.
right. I mean, there are 2 things in it. First of all, I mean, it's about transportation system. You can borrow a van as well, obviously, so sharing fits in that as well. On the other hand, I mean, cities need to be way more adaptive, I would say, to families, people living here for their whole lives, basically. Now you stay a long time in your house because it's quite, well, your house is pretty fixed, it's solid. you can't change your house too much, basically. Moving out is actually pretty expensive, and it's a thing to do. So there are two things. So you have sharing models, mobility as a service type of thinking. You don't need autonomous vehicles for that. I mean, there's a lot of sharing in that as well. Secondly, I think cities need to be more, more platform, fulfilling your needs as well, basically. So it's twofold, I would say.
Okay, thanks. I already got a sign that we have like about 1 minute, so it goes fast.
You had a fellow over here.
You break rules. That's kind of cool. So you want to take one more question or not? Or is it? Two other questions. Okay, make it quick. Who wants to? Yeah. Okay. April, welcome.
You might know I'm really happy to see this panel because I'm a strong believer in companies and governments working together. And I think there are a lot of entrepreneurs in the room. And the work that I do with entrepreneurs, a lot of times they're afraid of approaching government. They're concerned about policy. They just want to run under the radar. I strongly believe that there's an enormous potential for collaboration with companies to help set better policy, policymakers to reach out to entrepreneurs. What advice would you have to an entrepreneur who's sitting there going, I would love to develop a new platform, but I really, I'm of two minds as to whether or not I even should tell the government, much less try to work with them. How do we encourage more entrepreneurs to come to you, to work together, not only to solve city problems, but to truly drive innovation?
Yeah, thank you so much for this question. I think, in Amsterdam we have startups in residence, but maybe another city wants to reflect on this.
I think a lot of this comes out of the leadership from the political arm as well. We have a new mayor, a newish mayor in Toronto, and we're really reaching into.
We like the former, actually, more former.
Poor former Mayor Ford. He's passed away, but unfortunately, but he was a character. So our new mayor, very much about engaging with the innovation entrepreneur groups. Right, we're really trying to build out Toronto as a tech sector. So I think for government, it's making very deliberate outreach. I think that's something that we need to do. But for those folks who don't have that, or maybe are trying to find it, you're going to find an ear somewhere in the city. I think every city has got a person or some people, whether it's a dedicated person or someone who's typically not the innovation person, the rules person, but you're going to have somebody in every city.
How do you recognize that person? Because we don't know how to recognize such a person.
Great question. A lot of times it's paying attention to what's going on in the city and seeing where the dialogue's heading. If you just get wrapped up into what's being reported out in the media or tied up in these conversations at the political level, it may or may not give you the indicator. I mean, I think obviously entrepreneurs are persistent, and I think some persistence in the cities in the right places. You certainly start out, if you can start out in a positive way, it's going to be easier for everybody to adjust and address. When things started out, like in Toronto, they did not start out in a positive way, and it's taken 1.5 to 2 years just to even start to have a conversation. So, I would say entrepreneurs, don't be afraid. Find that ear in the government. Make some phone calls. People know people. But also reach out to the mayor. Reach out to the mayor's office. Start at that head of the political arm and say, this is something we'd like to talk about.
Okay, thank you so much, Tracey. Antoinette?
Yes. Just 2 examples. In Paris, we did some month ago, Reinventing Paris. I don't know if you have heard of that. It was the city says to promoting, housing promoters, startup, NGO, to make groups together to answer for a project to buy or to rent a building of Paris. So we decided to put 23 buildings given to proposal to this sort of groupments. What we wanted is that startup work with architects, work with NGO, and with building promoters, in order to make this innovation in the urbanization of Paris. And we had some programs like that, which are in itself promoting innovation. And we have to work more like that. Instead of saying we have got a market and we want one solution, we have to say we have got a market and we want a proposal done by a groupment of start-upper, NGO, and promoters and financial actors. We will change the way of making policy, and we will change the city. A second example, and then I stop.
Yeah, I would love to be here for 2 more hours, but I think they're going to kick off us.
Yeah, no, we have
No,
a
just
little
one
time.
second
It's
example
okay.
is the way we made policy. Politic made the policy of city. We decided in Paris to write the policy of circular economy with 250 actors, which were started, big companies, NGOs, students, and all together we worked for 6 months to make the policy of the city in circular economy. That's a new way of making policy which collaborates. That is sharing society, which collaborate with all the stakeholders, and it can be startup or big companies.
Great. And I just hear you say sharing society. I think that is a great phenomena to grow to.
And in Amsterdam, you can send me a tweet, and I will link you to the ladies in the back who actually are a sharing economy team.
So that's at Ger Baron. And I think can startups always, if they're in Toronto or want to set
Absolutely.
there and call you?
Absolutely.
Can they call you when they're in Paris and want to? Yeah,
no problem.
that's great. That's
Come
great.
to Toronto.
I think
got
we have to
one
wrap with
last-
you.
I
Yeah,
got one
okay.
last
I mean, you're in charge here, Melissa. So
We got some
I don't mind.
space.
Bring it on. Welcome.
I'll formulate it as a closing question, so that's kind of easy.
Beautiful.
There's many different ways in which local governments can help with innovation, entrepreneurship, startups, etc. If you would be able to mention one thing that really is where the key opportunity lies for your local government to help innovation in the city. So policy making, regulation, building networks, doing things like startup in residence. What would be the number one opportunity that the local government should be grabbing? If you had to choose one angle.
Ooh, choose one.
I see you all chewing on one. Tracey,
Create
Ger.
decent incentives in regulations. I mean, this is it. It's about market change. So we create a market. So it's change regulations. It's
Okay.
not about subsidies.
Okay, there you go.
Okay.
Part of the people are now really leaving the room.
Sorry,
Not about subsidies. Tracy, did you have something on mind?
Yeah,
already?
you'd think the regulator would say regulation. I think we need to not regulate everything, surprisingly. I talked myself out of a job. Yeah, absolutely. We don't need to regulate everything. And I'd be fine for them to send me off to retirement. I think it's that outreach, and I think it's the partnership and the collaboration with the innovators, with the entrepreneurs. The innovators, entrepreneurs bring a mindset that you don't often find in government, I think, just by the nature of our work. And I think the government really will leverage and benefit from that collaboration and partnership.
Thank you. And I think
I will say collaboration as
Collaboration.
well, because I think we have to innovate in this way to work together, a new way to work together. We can't go further like that. So we have to know, like hackathon, we've got a lot of hackathon now in Paris, which is just meet one to another and share our projects. Not in order to steal the project of your neighbor, but in order to
That's old economy.
rebuild and build the project together.
Except with rules and regulations, I meant we need to get rid of rules and regulations that protect existing industry.
Okay. Okay. So collaboration is key.
That's a
From sharing to collaborative economy and to a sharing society, maybe in 2030, for this next generation. Thank you. Thank you, Ger. Thank you,
Thank you,
Tracy.
Harmen.
Thank you, Antoinette. Thank you.
Thank you.
And have a good day.